give a conservative perspective about the observations around me. A quick rundown that I like to give at the start of the show. I'd like to tell you that I'm growing my platform. So on the audio platforms I'm on right now is Anchor, Spotify. I'm on the Google platform, and I'm on Overcast, and I'm growing from there. And I also have some social media plugs, so I'm growing that too. So right now, currently, I'm on Minds. You can simply find me under the Harbor on Minds, and I'm also on Twitter. And good news, I got a blue check on that, so you can find me the Harboring Light and on Twitter, and feel free to message me about any comments or concerns. I'm welcome to do that. So, as I like to do toward the end of the month, and I'm working on having constant audio and video in the future of content, but for right now I'm gonna do audio. So toward the end of the month, I like to do a long podcast featuring my husband, and what this podcast will be concerning towards is care, particularly care between partners, romantic partners, or children, and just a general concept of self-care and caring, and what all that involves. So, Garrett, what is your concern on this particular topic that we're talking about? think it all starts with self-care. And what I mean about that is you have to love yourself. Because if you don't have any kind of love or respect for yourself, or you can't, you can't do that, or you're not comfortable with doing it, I don't really see how you can love someone else properly. What do you think about what I just said?
No, I agree. You have to love yourself, or you can't really love anyone else if you don't at least love yourself first. How can you give somebody something that you don't actually know, or that you don't have for yourself? But on top of that, going back to what I was saying, it's more like preventative maintenance. You build yourself up and you do all these things before you have a family, before you have a wife and children. But once you have that, you've built yourself up. Now you just need to maintain what you've built. And there's a lot of guys who achieve so much and then they get with a woman and have children with her, and because they wouldn't stop putting in effort into building themselves up, and they, at the expense of their family, at the expense of the woman that they decided to have kids with, and sometimes they marry, they can end up losing them. And it's not to blame the man, but you have to know when it's time to invest in something else. But given that you can't step into it before you're ready, and I know a lot of guys can feel rushed into, I need to do this, I need to do that. I don't think it's so much of the problem anymore. I think the current generation of guys are more accepting of, I may not have any of these experiences until later in life, until a lot later in life, and I'm okay with that. And I think a lot of that has to do with, men and boys starting to learn their value and understand where their value truly lies. And unfortunately, it came at a hard cost of, there's a black generation of boys and young men who are in their mid to late 20s now and have never had a relationship. I've never had the opportunity to have a real relationship because technology has really changed the dating pool, and they focus solely on themselves, and they invest in themselves, and they try to make themselves a higher quality man. But because they've never experienced it, they don't know when to stop, and they don't know the true value that a family can bring to you, because a family can bring more value than money and a career and things ever can. I also believe that as good as it can be as a motivator to achieve, it can also be a deterrent to a lot of guys to, why should I even try?
I can speak I can only speak from a female point of view, but I think that the downside too with especially online dating, is that it's female centric, and at the best and at the worst, females have issues. You want to delve deep into having real conversations about this. Have issues with surface level of importance. And so what I mean by this is getting too hung up on, oh, he's got to look like this, he's got to be like this. If he's not like this, I don't want this. If he's not like this, I don't like this. If he doesn't believe this, I don't want this. I want him to have this certain A, B, C, D type. If he's not here, then I don't want this. And if, that's too much to deal with, and that's too stressful, and that's just, I don't know,
I think the big problem is, the list. Most women have a list of the 101 things they need in a man. Oh, my dream guy's got this, and it goes on and on and on. The only time you have lists like that are when you're young and inexperienced, and everything's new to you, or when you don't really know what you want,
right,
or what you can afford. And
right.
That, a young guy who's thinking of his first car, of his first hot rod build, or his first time buying a car. A lot of times it's, man, I want a Bugatti Veyron that's chromed out, chrome paint job. I'm going to have custom leather interior, custom audio, not realizing that all of these things require vast customization. Or the guy who's building his very first hot rod. Oh man, I'm going to take this car, I'm going to bore the engine, stroke it, I'm going to turbo it, I'm going to full exhaust, man, I'm going to hit 2,000 horsepower. Not realizing that you're not going to do that on the block that it came with. You're going to have to do full custom. You want to see these returns, you're going to have to invest a lot of time and money into it. And it's full custom, and it's lack of experience. I have everything before me, everything I need, because I have the idea in my head that I can achieve it. And it's, like I said, lack of knowledge, lack of experience, but also not truly knowing what they want. I remember the first time I built a car, I yo-yoed on a bunch of different parts. I bought a bunch of different things that I didn't actually need for it, that I ended up not using, used for a little bit, and then took off, and had to double and triple spend on things because I kept changing my mind on what I was going to do, because I didn't have a solid plan. I didn't understand what it took, and I was just rushing head first without any thought to it. And I thought I had thought it all out. I thought I had a good idea of what I wanted, but it constantly kept changing. It changed because of things I spoke about with my friends. It changed because of things I saw out, on other cars. So many things changed it, but it wasn't until I sat down and evaluated what I truly wanted, what I could truly afford, that I actually built a decent car. And I think the same thing can be applied to relationships, and it's mainly women in relationships. As a guy, as a man who is currently married and who has been married before and divorced, and I've known wholeheartedly what I wanted from any relationship. I wanted a woman who loved and cared for me, and that wanted children, and that would love and care for our children, who I could support and would in turn support me, and who we could support children, that give a great life to children and leave a great legacy. But so many girls I've dated want kids, or I don't want this, or I do want this, or you got to have this whole list of things that you have to meet, and then can't have any expectations of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember when I was dating, I tried online dating, seeing the same. A lot of these women would say, don't come at me with just, hey, be unique, be creative in the way you approach me. But it didn't matter. You could try to be creative, you could try to be unique, and they had no ability to hold a conversation because it was, are you going to pay for this? Are you going to take me to an expensive restaurant? Are you going to do this? And a lot of it's for validation. And, it's so true on the guys could go on online dating and they swipe on everything, just trying to get a match. Women will go on and decline everything until that 10 out of 10 shows up on their screen. That's a 10 out of 10 when it comes to funds and has everything that they think they want. And, a lot of these women think they deserve them, but, all they are is a warm, wet hole. They think they have things that men want, but they're projecting the values that they want onto themselves, thinking that that's what will attract a man when it doesn't. And honestly, I don't understand why a lot of women do this. I don't really understand the approach of it, but I don't think it's a valid way of caring for yourself. Going out and partying and drinking and sleeping around and doing all these things, I don't think it's a valid way for anyone, man or woman, to actually care for themselves, because you lose yourself in it. You don't know who you truly are. You don't know what your true value is, because you've never had to find it in yourself to try and express that to someone else. As a guy, and I say this from the point of view of a guy who was very popular with women, and through high school and through my younger years, my adolescence, early adulthood. I never had to think about who I was or what I needed to do to maintain a relationship or to be a good partner, because I never had thoughts of being a good partner. It was, I'm having fun, I'm doing whatever I want, I don't care if you don't like me, because you liked me long enough for me to get what I want. The problem with that is, when you do care whether or not someone likes you, you have no idea what your flaws actually are. And I think that's why, you see these videos on YouTube and all this stuff of people asking somebody, what would you rate yourself? And most of these women go and they say, I'm a 10. And you get guys that will say, I'm a 10 every once in a while, but usually they have a better rating of themselves, a more accurate rating, something that's a little bit lower, like it's 5 or 6. Sometimes you hear a guy say he's a 7. But that's mainly because guys razz each other and guys talk down to each other, and guys are talked down to by women and everybody else so often that they have a true value of themselves. But these women who have never had to look internally to see what their true value actually is, or they say, oh, well, I'm this because I believe I'm this, but they've never had to look into themselves to discover what very vague. Oh, well, I haven't done this, or I don't do this, or I don't have any flaws, you know. The whole idea of I'm perfect the way I am, love me, is garbage. You know, you have to know your flaws to improve yourself. If you don't think you're flawed, then you can't be improved on. And there's no growth in that, and that's what life's about, is growth.
Would you like to share how we met, or you just?
You can tell them how we met.
No, I was wondering because you had mentioned about online dating, and I was wondering if you want to, share.
Yeah, that's fine if you want to go into it.
I was just because it kind of is apropos. Because to make a long story short, at the time I was in grad school, and then I was thinking that was the best way to move ahead. And so, I was in a small town and looking for something new and different. And so I tried my hand again with online dating. And, I was at my wit's end with it. And, long story short, we found each other on there.
Yeah.
And, because, yeah.
I would say, with you saying you were at your wit's end, it's funny because the day we matched as I was going to uninstall the app. I had gotten a notification before uninstalling it that I had a new match, because for 2-3 years after my last relationship ended, it was scrolling through, trying to message people, trying to be unique, trying to have a profile that expressed who I was and who I am as a person and my value, which is so hard to express over something like a profile page.
Yeah, it's very hard because it's an issue with things of that nature, especially it's just, I don't know, relationships and it's not neat. You can't, it's something that's really organic, and then it can work really well or really bad, but it's one of those things that you have to really work at it and just, stick to the point of focusing the energy on who you really are and who you want to be with, and not giving in to, I gotta change myself in order to get what I think I want.
Right.
Because, you'll suffer a lot in the end, and that's the problems that I had. I wouldn't say problems. It wasn't problems for me. It was just aggravating, painful to deal with all these people not understanding the point and not understanding my point of view and trying to manipulate it to where they think they can get what they want, and it was just,
Well, something I learned was I would take the time to read through a profile.
Yeah, and
I would,
myself too.
I would swipe on just about, I would say I would swipe on 90% of the profiles that came up, but I would take the time every single one that I swipe on to read through the profile.
Right.
And if I was going to strike up a conversation with anybody, to have an idea and try to relate to something in their profile, but it is unbelievable the amount of times I go, what? What do you mean? What's that supposed to mean? When referencing something in the person's profile that I was messaging.
They don't read it because it was, all of a sudden,
Right. Or be asked a question that I specifically addressed in my profile. If a conversation did get started, getting asked a question that I specifically addressed in my profile. And, it's like, did you take the time to read this? And people are like, oh yeah, well I did. It's like, it specifically says the answer to this question that you just asked me. And most people, had no idea. They didn't even care, And something else I learned was most of the women that I spoke to on the profile were incapable of holding a conversation, and it seemed like it was only certain points in time when they even cared about trying to have a conversation. So after time of dealing with it, I got tired of it. And I was going to delete it, and you messaged me. Everything just bloomed from there and went from there, and it was luck. It doesn't happen that way for most people.
No, absolutely not.
But I think one of the worst ones really is Bumble.
Yeah, and that's the issue, it's just the inconsistencies with feminism. You say you want to be the one in the position to make the first move, but when you are at that position to do it, fall through. You want to revert to, I guess, a traditional type of response to how, court and date, per se, with everything.
I completely agree. I had Bumble for a month. Maybe. It could have been less, but I know it wasn't for more.
Right.
And after the third or fourth time of matching with somebody and it saying, wait for them to make the first move and nothing, I was ready to delete. And then I thought about, okay, well, if, again, I'm thinking of it from the perspective of a guy. Well, if I'm swiping on so many, they're probably doing the same, and they're probably treating this the same way I am, where you're swiping on these and ones you would like to message, you go through and read the profile and see if you even have anything in common.
Right.
The visuals attracted you at first. Now let's see if we have anything in common. And you're jumping forward steps that you would normally take in person while dating. You see somebody you find attractive, you ask them out, and then you date, and you find your things that you have in common, mutual likes and dislikes, and things that you want in your future, and mutual goals and things like that. You look for while dating, and then that's how you move things forward. You kind of do a little bit of that while doing online dating. What is strange in it is the women who did send a message. If someone sent a message, it was out of 10 10 or so messages, I would say. Every single one of them was just, hey, how are you? All the times you read in a profile, be unique, be different, make yourself stand out, all this, hey, how are you? Is what was sent in all 10 messages that I ever received on the platform before deleting it. Out of those 10 messages, I responded to 10 trying to hold a conversation. I think one actually turned into a conversation that, if spoken, would have been a casual greeting to a co-worker in passing. No more than 5 minutes of conversation over the span of about a month. And then, this is stupid. There's no point in this. But I learned every single one of these online dating websites are being funded by men.
Sure.
They get you on. They have, I'm certain, a lot of fake female accounts, for one. Bot accounts, things like that. And I'm sure they propagate a lot of them themselves. But out of that, you can only swipe so many times in a certain amount of time, and then you have to wait. If you don't want to wait, you have to pay. You can only send certain types of messages, and if you want to send other types, you have to wait. On a lot of them, if you want to see people who specifically like you, so that you can go and look at their profiles, you have to wait. Well, guess what? Most women don't have a hard time seeing who might have liked them, because if they go through and they swipe that they like a profile, chances are, if the guy saw it, he probably swiped on it too, and it'll instantly say match. But for guys, you could swipe on 100 profiles and get one match, send a message to that person, and never get any type of response. And then it says constantly, oh, someone new liked you, come in to see who it was. But you could never see unless you pay. So I'm certain it's more men paying for these. I would love to see the demographic of people who actually pay for dating sites, and I'm willing to bet it is more likely that men pay for dating sites than women.
And what I would do to try and, from my point of view, what I combat everything to see when I would initiate, okay, what we seen, we seen, like we're connecting, how about we meet for lunch, how about we meet for coffee? And I was a way to screen, to see who's there for serious content, or who's there to just somebody that's just, wanna, I guess a bot, but somebody that's just mentally unaware that they think that just staying online is a significant way to date somebody and never meet them in person. Just all kinds of things. So I would do that. And it was just interesting the kind of responses I got for it. So, some of them would be okay with doing that. Most of them would just reverse it back and say, well, I don't think you're real anyway, and this and that and the other. What do you think about it?
I mean, guys get jaded quickly when it comes to online dating, because within the first month or two on any platform, most of the matches you get are going to be, come come pay for my site. Come visit my site. Oh, well, I can't really talk to you here. Come visit me. Come talk with me on this. For this much money, I can get you this. I can't really have the conversation that I want with you here. Come to this site where I can talk to you the way I want. A different pay site where they can, and it's usually to buy nudes or anything like that. And then if they don't try to get you to go to a site, it's, this is, all of these things. Well, I could really use this. Could you send me some money?
Right.
Never me, but could you send me some money? Could you help me with this? Could you do this for me? Here's my Cash App. Here's my this. Here's my that. Give me money. And then if it's not give me money, it's a guy, and if it's not some guy pretending to be a woman, it's a person who's only looking for added validation. They never have any intent to meet or have a relationship more than the conversation on the app, because they're already in another relationship and they're just looking for excess validation, or B, they're not in a relationship, they have no intention of being in a relationship with you, but they like the nice things you say to them.
Right, yeah.
And so most guys, they figure that out quick. They learn it quick. It's somebody trying to get a free meal. It's somebody trying to make $1 off of you. Or it's some guy just being a jackass. And when a woman does say, hey, let's go and have this simple coffee date, that's for a lot of guys, there's no way this is real, because one, every time you try to suggest something that's not a 5-course meal that costs $200 a plate,
right,
and then $50 bottles of champagne or $50 bottles of wine starting, it's, you can't afford me. I mean, it wasn't that bad when you were younger with doing it, it's gotten exponentially worse every year.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not like it was that long ago that we met and stuff, but way back when online dating was, I wouldn't say in its infancy, because in its infancy goes back to AOL Instant Messenger, MSN Instant Messenger stuff. Yeah. They had the singles chat rooms.
Right.
But, back in the Plenty of Fish days, when it was really early on into Plenty of Fish, it was, you send somebody a message and stuff, and maybe after months or years of talking online, you met.
Right.
It increased from there, but it got to the point somehow so fast that if you weren't willing to spend $1,000 on this person, you were somehow unworthy of them.
Right.
Because you didn't want to waste a bunch of money just to feed their gut. And again, like, a lot of this stuff is gone to, I don't owe you anything if we go out on a date. And guys are willing to say, yeah, sure, if we go out on a date, you don't owe me anything. I don't have the right to expect anything. But it got to the point of, I'm going to go on a date and I'm going to bring a friend and you're going to pay. Or we're going to go on a date, I'm not even going to talk to you, but expect you to pay for everything because you asked me out. We're out on a date. So I think it's wrong to say, you can't expect anything of the person that you ask out. I think you should be able to expect a conversation. You should be able to expect a good date from this person. You should be able to expect this person to actually be interested in a relationship or in finding out whether or not there could be a relationship. And if anybody wants to disagree with that, maybe they should delete themselves from the dating pool, because you don't see guys going out saying, buy my drinks, buy my food, pay my bills, do all this stuff. If they did, they would be called chumps and mooches and bums and all this stuff. It happens constantly. What I find hilarious are these women who say, I'm a strong, independent woman, I'll pay my bills. It's like, so much for being strong and independent.
That doesn't add up there.
No, or they get in a relationship and they say, well, your money's our money and my money's my money. Like, you're gonna pay all the bills, you're gonna do all this, and you better make enough to do all that, but I'm gonna keep my money to do what I want to do. Not, they won't use, a lot of these women won't use their money to go shopping or to go get their nails done and their hair done and all this stuff. They still expect their guy to pay for that stuff. While they're out doing everything, and then get mad when he can't afford to pay to go on a luxury vacation, or when they have to help out with something. And you'll hear all these other women who, always are single, they're perpetually single, saying, no, queen, you deserve more than that. It's like, there's not that many guys who make over $500,000 a year.
No.
And you have 90% of women competing for 1% of the population, trying to figure out why none of them can get lucky enough to get this guy, or why he cheats on them, or why he just bounces around. And it's like high school football players trying to get into college, and then college football players trying to get into the NFL or something. You start in a very big pool, going for one in a 200,000 probability. And if you're lucky enough to get into that higher rung of the ladder of a 200,000 probability, you're going from that to 1 in 20 probability. And it's a little higher than that, but the higher you go, the chances of achieving it are less. And the value you have to have has to be higher. And if it's not, the guys who make themselves that top 1% know their own value and their own worth, but they're also very good at seeing the value and worth in those around them.
Right.
And these women who think they have value, who are going after these guys, aren't very good at seeing the value of people around them. And they're not very good at seeing their own value, or they're delusional. And then when they get cheated on, or left, or stood up, or, when it's a one night stand or a booty call or anything like that, they don't understand it. And it's like, you're not that valuable. You hear what some women say, oh, I felt like slumming. I felt like slumming. I went with this guy because, oh, well, he's good in bed, and I just felt like slumming. I felt like doing some charity work. Feeding the less fortunate.
So when you say slumming, because this is a new concept, I mean, I kind of get in a concept. So, and what you're saying as far as reading in between the line, so it pretty much slumming is being with somebody because you feel bad for them, or
just the general idea of dating down.
You're pretty much settling, right?
Kind of. It's not even really that new of a concept.
I know. I'm sure it's not. I just never really.
Yeah, but it's dating someone who's of lower class, like the movie Crybaby.
Oh yeah.
The guy from the other side of the tracks and the prep girl.
Right.
She's slumming.
Right.
She's going into the slums to find a person.
Yeah.
Why? Because they have no value. They're no one. They're nobody. They're going to be grateful for everything they get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how a lot of these women see everything, but they don't realize that the guy, that 1% guy, is saying the same thing to his buddies about them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's expected, though. Guys are expected to be willing to date down. As a guy, you date down and you elevate a woman.
Right. And I'm just because this is what's surfacing in my mind right now, and I just want to say it now before it slips my mind. But I think that's the great thing with men is being practical and seeing life the way it is. And I think when you finally get that concept in your mind to view things the way that it is, life becomes a whole lot easier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think I'm not saying that. I mean, there are some guys that don't understand that concept, but it's just unfortunate that most women, they just can't move past that of seeing things as they actually are,
Right.
Because the whole concept of, at one point in society, especially you would see and depicted in the media and shows and all kinds of stuff that the whole tint that goes with media of this typical stereotype of a fixer-upper. It pretty much is I know he has these terrible qualities. I know he's just no good for me and all this, that, and the other. If I just hang in and I believe I can change him, I can make him who I want him to be.
Yeah, I can fix him.
Right.
You shouldn't have to fix the person you want to be with.
Right, you should.
You shouldn't want to change them. They should change with you. Like, you should both change together because you're creating something new.
Right.
when you take yourself and add it to someone else, you create something new. You know, 2 plus 2 isn't 2.
Right.
You know, 2 plus 2 is 4, because you're adding those two things together to create something entirely new. And I think that's a big issue that a lot of people don't understand. You know, and it goes back, you know, guys are meant to elevate the woman that they're with.
Right.
You know, and that the woman that they're with is meant to help make their man look good. You know, in a lot of instances, you help them and make them look good. You love each other for your flaws, despite your flaws, and you create something better the sum is greater than the individual parts. You know, and that is how you have a good relationship.
Yeah.
You know, you can't go into it being me, and expect to have a great relationship. Most of these people who do that are wondering, like, I don't know what went wrong. You know, it was him. It's all him. It's all his fault. If you ever get out of a relationship and you think it's not me, it's them, it's probably you. You know, if you can't see the reason why your relationship failed and anything that you could have done to make it better, you were probably doing something wrong. Like if you are so blind to not see areas where you can fix yourself or where you could have done better after failing, and that's what it is. If a relationship ends, it's a failure. It's not just a failure on you. It's a failure on two parties. You know, it's a failure on you, and it's a failure on them.
Yeah, and the whole, I don't know. The whole thing with, I can see it, but I don't see it. The whole thing of ending a relationship mutually, or it wasn't no one's issue. It's just something that happened. I don't know. But I don't really buy in that so much, because I mean,
I can see it.
I can see it, yeah.
If you're in a relationship for maybe 2-3 weeks, a month, short-term relationship, I would let me create my view of it. Anything 6 months or less is short-term relationship.
Yeah.
Anything from 6 months to a year and a half is a medium to long-term relationship, and anything more than a year and a half is a long-term relationship. You know, if you consecutively, and this is consecutive, you know, going out on a date with somebody once, and then 2 months, 3 months later, going out on a second date, and then 3 months later, going out on a third date, and trying to say, well, I'm in a long-term relationship with this person. No, you're in a 3-day relationship.
There's some mental health issues, and you need to reconsider that.
Well, the way I say it, like, if in the last 6 months, if you haven't spent more than a week's worth of time with that person in 6 months, you're not in a relationship. Now, but if in a 6-month time period, if you could say easily, I've spent in an entire 6 months, you know, at least 1 week's time in a month and each month, at least 6 weeks time, in the 6-month period with this person, you could say, okay, I'm in a relationship. And at that point, if the relationship fails and you're both like, okay, hey, look, we gave it a shot, we tried, like, there are things that I don't like about you that I just can't get over, and there are things that you don't like about me that, you know, you just can't get over. I'm not willing to change this for you. You're not willing to change that for me. You know, we just, hey, you know, we tried, it's not gonna work. You know, that's mutual. I can see that. I had it happen. But if you do the same things and you're like, well, whether you're the guy or the girl, most of the time it's the guy. Well, I know she's batshit crazy. I know that she has all these issues, and she is obsessed with having validation from all these other people, and that she's selfish and immature, and, you know, doesn't actually have many of the likes, but man, she's so hot. That's on you. Yeah, that's your failure. But her failure in it is going that far, but saying, yeah, I don't really like this guy, but I'm comfortable, and I'm just going to go. Because you get complacent with each other, and something always breaks. When it gets to that, something is bound to break. And 90% of the time, it is the girl saying, I found someone better, I'm done, I'm leaving. But what they found better may not actually be better, but it's better than what they're seeing right now. So they jump to it, and that's the woman who normally calls her ex, I miss you. And that guy is probably like, man, I don't know why I stuck with this for so long. But then when it's the guy who says, you know what, I can't do this anymore, you know, it's still on him for going and putting up with it for that long. But that's usually the woman who's like, all men are garbage.
Right.
And that's a bad way for anybody to look at anything. You know, I've had bad experiences, so it's everyone else's fault but mine. Like, that's the most immature way of looking at it. It's everyone else's fault but mine. All men are garbage. All cops are bastards. You know, these things, these idea of all this, all that, all this, are ridiculous, immature, and ignorant. Anybody who truly believes it, or even is willing to just say it seriously, is ignorant in thinking that your bad experiences are a representation of everybody, without ever stopping to think of, wow, out of all the relationships I've had that have failed miserably and horribly, the only common denominator between them is me. My view and how I respond to these things. Maybe I'm the problem. They're mature. Kids don't understand when they've done something wrong. And then as they start to understand, they learn, like, oh, I shouldn't do this, because if I do this, this bad thing will happen. They learn the cause and effect. They learn causality from it. But yet somehow people go through relationships without ever learning causality in it. Oh, if I talk to other guys while I'm in a relationship, I will lose my relationship. Not my problem. It's his problem. He was insecure. You know, oh, if I act insane while I'm in a relationship, you know, on a guy's part, oh, if I act jealous and try to seclude her from anyone and everyone around her, and act like, you know, any person, any guy that ever approaches her is doing something wrong, you know, and it causes the relationship to end. It's not my fault, it's her fault. She just doesn't understand my passion. No, you have to look at yourself and say, oh man, me doing this, me doing X caused the relationship to fail. I probably shouldn't do X if I want to have a good relationship, or make sure first thing that person I'm trying to have a relationship with is okay with X.
Right.
You know, but people don't. People will go years without trying to hide who they are and things like that, and the relationship fails because you can't hide who you are forever.
No.
But yet people try. You know, and I saw a thing or something. Don't date a guy if you haven't seen him without his beard.
Okay. What is she getting? What was she getting at?
That if he shaves and he's ugly, you won't want to be with him.
Oh, I see.
But the inverse of that is, don't date a woman if you haven't seen her without her makeup and her hair done.
But see, okay, that's what phases me is it's called make up for a reason, to make up of what you do not have. You know?
Right, yeah.
So it goes along the same lines of
you're making yourself up
to present as something that you wish you had, right?
Right.
So it goes along the same linear concept to me of seeing what a man's actually like that you want without a beard. So I mean, it's kind of like,
well, a lot of these women out there are made of more than Drop Dead Fred. You know, they're more imaginary than, you know, Barney.
Sure. And you know, to people who don't know what my husband referred to, I mean, I'm sure you know, but it just to get it out there, it's a movie where the main character is an imaginary person that so you know that she held on through her childhood, and it's a whole thing with that. But you know, if you're interested, that's what it's about.
It's a very good movie.
It's really good.
Remember who's actually in it.
Phoebe Cates, I know.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure the guy who plays the imaginary person, but anyway, it's a really good movie.
Her childhood imaginary friend comes back to her as she's basically having a midlife crisis, and because she lets a bunch of other people run her life, but that's besides the point. That kind of runs it.
Yeah.
But yeah, her imaginary friend comes back to life. But that's the thing, a lot of these women are so made up. You know? I mean, at the end of Barney, at least you see him turn back into a stuffed dinosaur.
Right. At least you see that concept, right?
You know, it's teaching kids that, hey, it's okay to have an imagination. It's okay as long as you know that it always goes back to being a stuffed dinosaur.
Right. It's not actually a real
talking, dancing, purple dinosaur.
Right.
And but these a lot of these women are like, no, this is who I am. This is me. This is that. But they're comfortable with it. They're comfortable with the lie, but they try to say, well, men are fake, men are trash, men are garbage. You know, if you're doing this, you're a liar. If you do this, you know, see him. You gotta see him without his beard. Make sure you see him in this situation, in that situation, in this or in that. I think the very first thing you should do when you meet a woman on a first date is hand her a washcloth and say, bitch, go wash your face. Yeah, go wash your face. Yeah. It's like, let me see what you look like without makeup. I don't want to wait 4 weeks. You know, these women say, I don't have time to waste on just you for 4 weeks to figure out, you know, I'm going to date around. I'm going to have a bunch of other guys until I determine that you are worthy of me and that I want to be with you. take a washcloth with you, some makeup remover with you on your first date, guys. Just show up. If you're not sure whether or not you're actually are interested in this woman, I challenge anybody. Record it, put it on YouTube. I want to see this take off. Anybody who hears this, spread it. I want to see it go viral. It would be freaking hilarious. But just show up to your first date, or even go out to the club or the bar, and when you start talking to a woman, or if she starts talking to you, hand her the makeup remover and say, yeah, I gotta see if it's worth it. I gotta see if you're really worth it. Let's see how fake you actually are. How much comes off. It's already hilarious when you see the videos of somebody slamming on the brakes and the person hitting the back of the seat and half their face gets stuck to it. How much makeup are you wearing? And just see the change. Don't even do your whole face. Just do half. Let's see the contrast. And I don't think it would work out well for a lot of these women. They say a lot of times, men are compensating when they're big cars and big trucks, and they're compensating for a lack in terms of manhood. But I think the makeup and the hair and all this stuff is a compensation for the emptiness of a lot of these women. They're empty, soulless husks who have no sense of self-worth, and they're faking it. They're trying to make it seem like they're better than what they are, but they're not, but they're faking it, and then they call it out in everybody else around them.
Yeah, and I think that has to do with the whole idea of also to add on to that, because it's very important to have a sense of self-reflection out, and to see meaning in other things beyond you. And I think if you have the concept of more so that beauty is all about health and self-care, everything with the whole concept of makeup, it will all look different, and all used in a different means and what it's used for, and then the concept of how you want to have your hair and nails and all that, under that umbrella.
Right. What gets me a lot of times with it is a lot of these people forget beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's like, you can't see yourself. You should hold yourself.
But I'm sorry.
That's other people. And so all these people who go out and say, I'm this, and they say they are perfect.
Right.
That's how they see themselves, and that should be the biggest argument. The question that a lot of these people should be asking is, what do you think other people rate you? And people say, well, it doesn't matter what others think.
Yeah, it kind of does. If you
most of these arguments are the arguments parents tell their kids to get them to learn to be confident in themselves. And it's meant you take part of it and you say, okay, yes, but there's also value in these other people's opinions.
Right.
These other people's views matter.
Right.
But a lot of these people are so self-absorbed, and it's not even just women, it's men as well.
Yeah.
Well, nobody else's opinion matters but mine. Well, unless you plan on living by yourself for the rest of your life, other people's opinions matter. Unless you're a recluse, a hermit, and you don't have any type of community, other people's opinions matter. And, you know, I'm special, I'm perfect the way I am. My mama told me when I was 4. You know, all these things, but it's stuff we were raised with, and it was perpetuated. And you can be anything you want to be. There's a silent but there. But you have to work for it. But other people have to believe you can be that too. But someone else has to find value in what you want as well.
Sure.
And they ignore that. They don't see that. A lot of these people do not see it. It's like, I could be a millionaire if I want to be a millionaire. Because are you willing to work to be a millionaire? Are you willing to grind and do everything needed to be a millionaire? If you're not, you're probably not going to be a millionaire. I can be president. Okay, are you going to do all the things required? You know, glad hand all the people that you need, make all the connections, go and speak to your community and be out there and open and risk everything to try to achieve this 1-in-1 position. Every 4 to 8 years you have an opportunity to attempt to do something that only one person can have in any 4 to 8 year span. But yet you believe you're going to do it. You know. And self-confidence is a big part of self-care, but self-doubt is also a big part. It's not confidence if you have no doubt.
Right.
If you have no doubt that you're perfect, if you truly believe you are perfect, that there is no room for growth, why don't you have it yet? Is the question. Like, a lot of these people who say, well, all women are 10s. Every woman out there is a 10. That means that a 10 has no value. That none of these women have any value at all, because they're all the exact same. You know, $100 bill is worth more than a dollar bill because there is more value in it. Period. You know, if I understand that I'm a 6 and I can do things and work and to become a 7 or an 8, that is a goal for me to try to achieve. Now, you know, on the inverse, it's a balancing act. You can't go around thinking, oh, I'm worthless, I'm nothing, I'm this, I'm that, and expect other people to pick you up. You have to know your shortcomings, you have to understand them, you have to accept them, and you have to try to correct and minimize them as much as possible, while understanding that, yes, I do have shortcomings.
Right.
You know, you have to have fear to be brave. You know, you have to be afraid of something to be courageous enough to attempt. You have to have a fear of failure, or else it's not courageous. You know, you're not a success because you were able to get up out of bed and go brush your teeth. You know, doing the bare minimum, you know you can do that. You know that that's easy. You know, risking everything to go and start a business and turning it in, you know, that is courageous. You know, saying, oh, well, I've got, you know, all these people who are willing to do this for me and I don't have to do anything to get it, I think I'm just going to take that. That doesn't make you a success. It doesn't give you value.
No, not at all. because of children. So which is, to me, I saw that before I met my husband, and even more so now with our 3 children. Children have a unique way in the best way of bringing out all of your insecurities, and you have to just sit there and face them and move toward the best version of yourself to combat it. So you can. That's if you want to parent and be the best for your children, to combat them in a way that can uplift the child and move the child in the best direction.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. As a man, you should want to take the best of yourself and put it into a relationship while trying to keep the worst of yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the 20% of self-care. You're working on bettering the worst of you. And as parents, you're trying to take the best of the both of you and put it into your children. You're trying to instill your best features and qualities into them and accentuate their best features so that they can be great people, while also showing them these are things that you need to address in yourself. How to address things in themselves, so that they can go and do it as well. You know.
And children are the best keepers and markers of what you're doing right and wrong. Because I'll tell you that that's the beauty in children. There's no censorship, so you'll know right off the bat.
Right.
It's that and the other. You just have to sit there and say, okay, and take it. You know.
You know, and parents can be blamed for a lot of things, but at a point, there's this invisible line where it's, I can blame my parents for things versus, and you cross this line, you get into this gray zone where it's, is it the parents' fault or is it the child's fault, the person's fault?
Right.
You know, and you cross this invisible line at some point where it's, I have to take responsibility for me.
Absolutely.
I can't continue to blame this. And, you know, a lot of people, they never pass that. So it's, when I can't blame my parents anymore, well, it's this. Well, it's men. It's this career. It's this type of person. It's people who have this position. It's people who have that position. It's white people. It's men. It's, you know, straight white men. It's straight women's fault. It's everyone else's fault but my own. And people take that and then they put it on with their friends, and they get with a bunch of other people who feel the same. And instead of reflecting on themselves and taking care of themselves by fixing their own problems, it's not my fault. I don't have a problem. Everyone else has a problem. I'm one. They're 100. They don't have the same problem I do, but my problem isn't my fault. It's their fault.
Right. And to honestly, I think a lot of people, and I want to hear what you have to, even more so what you have to say. Obviously, a lot of people don't understand. I think the great balance of, and to truly understand the definition of what conditional means and unconditional means. And I think once you get that sorted out in your head, not only mentally but physically, and then practice that, and if you can't do it, try to, and that'll make things a whole lot easier too, as far as how you see yourself and what you want for yourself, and just how you place yourself with people and how you place yourself with things.
Yeah. I mean, what I don't understand is how all these people who think that everything is someone else's problem,
right,
haven't realized that there is a lot of small towns.
Sure.
There's a lot of places that they could go, all get together and vote in the people who want to defund the police.
Yeah.
They could all move to a small town, take over a few towns, small couple, vote in their mayor, vote in their own sheriff, and then that sheriff resign, fire all the deputies, and then resign, and just never hold another election for a sheriff. Choose to not do it. Become mayor and take over the city council and do all these things and say, start in a small town and get rid of it all. The reason they don't is because they truly know that if they did, they would have no control. It's all the things that they say they don't want that allow them to have control over everything else. And it also gives them someone else to blame besides themselves. People who blame their parents for everything, they have to stop when everybody knows their parents are not around, when their parents have not been there. You cannot blame them. Well, if I can't blame my parents, I'll blame society, I'll blame my job, I'll blame my boss, I'll blame my girlfriend, I'll blame my boyfriend, I'll blame my relationships, I'll blame all these other things except for me. Sometimes taking blame onto yourself is self-care, because one, it shows you how strong you truly are. Two, it shows how much you can actually handle. Taking on blame shows how much you can handle, how strong you truly are. And it shows your value. You know, Jesus Christ and the story of Christ means so much to people and goes so far for so many people because of the idea that this one man was willing to take on the entire world's sins, was willing to shoulder that burden so that the entire world would be forgiven. It speaks volumes. That is the hero's journey. I will shoulder the burdens that you can. That is what fathers are supposed to do for their families. That is what wives are supposed to do for their husbands. That is what parents are supposed to do for their children. And that's what husbands are supposed to do for their wives. You know, and at a point, children do it for their parents. You know, when my parents can no longer shoulder the burden, I shoulder the burden with you. You know, when things are getting too hard for me, my spouse, my wife, my husband, you come in and you help. And you help shoulder that burden. When our things are too hard for our children, we help lift that burden until they're able to hold it and maintain it themselves. And the greater the burden you're able to bear, the greater the man you are. Atlas shouldered the burden of the earth. He's one of the, arguably the greatest god in Greek mythology. Because he shouldered the entire burden of the earth. And it's easy to push the blame and stuff on the people who are already shouldering this huge burden. But those people also know what they can and can't handle because they reflect on themselves of these are my problems, these are my issues. But they're also not willing to just blindly take on other people's burdens because they say, well, it's all your fault. And that's a big issue. That's a big thing. If I can, if I can look into myself and say, these are things that I need to work on to be a better person, then I can better myself. But I have to be able to see my faults. And that's an issue. In cars, they have lights that pop on to let you know when something's wrong. But people will still blow the engine of their car because they never change the oil. They see the oil light, they ignore it. They see the check engine light, they ignore it. They see all the warning signs, all the flashing lights, all the people telling them, all the noises, the tickings, the tappings, all the things that are alerting them that something is wrong, and they ignore it. And then it blows up in their face. And they're wondering why. Oh, well, it's just a piece of junk Chevy. Oh, it's just a Ford. Oh, in a lot of relationships, you have these women who say, oh, well, it's just because he's a man. It's like there were all these warnings and all these lights and all these things going on that you ignored. It's on you. And what were you doing to prevent these things from happening? Nothing. You didn't care about it. And you didn't care enough about yourself to prevent it from happening. So now you're stuck walking. It's a bad situation all the way around. But the worse it gets, the stronger people get. And I'm excited to see where things go for people.
Yes, so you have any final words?
No.
Well, again, it was a pleasure having you chime in on the subject. I was enjoying your perspective, and it really forms a good point of view about my opinion about things and how I see what's going on in the world around us. Because it's ever changing. But at the same time, it's nothing new because, people like to say the cliche or adage, but it's very useful. And I'm going to end it where you if you don't pay attention to history, it repeats itself. And it's just helpful to understand that and to know that. And I'm gonna leave you with that, and your food for thought with that. And again, this was the Harboring Light, and I really hope you understand and like the concept of what we were talking about. And thank you so much.